If you are an immigrant living in the United States right now, or if you are waiting for a visa, or if you send money back home to your family, or if you rely on any kind of government benefit like Medicaid or food assistance, I need you to stop everything and listen to what I am about to tell you, because a sweeping new law was signed on July 4th, 2025, and its effects are hitting right now in 2026. This is not a rumor. This is not speculation. This is federal law. It is called the One Big Beautiful Bill Act. It passed the Senate by a single vote, 51-50, with the Vice President breaking the tie. It passed the House 218 to 214, and President Trump signed it into law on Independence Day 2025. And I can tell you, after 6 years of covering immigration policy on this channel, this is the single most significant piece of legislation affecting immigrants that I have ever reported on. It touches your fees, your benefits, your taxes, your family petitions, your ability to send money abroad, your access to health care, your children's eligibility for tax credits, and even how much it costs to appeal a deportation order. My name is James. This is Immigration News Today. And over the next several minutes, I am going to walk you through exactly what this law does, who it affects, what has already changed, what is coming next, and most importantly, what you need to do right now to protect yourself and your family. And I want to be clear from the very beginning. This video is for educational and formational purposes only. It is not legal advice. Immigration policy is changing rapidly, and the details I share are verified as of date, but things can shift. So please always confirm with official sources like USCIS, the Department of State, or the IRS, and consult a qualified immigration attorney for your specific situation. Now, let us get into it. Let me start with the big picture because I want you to understand the scale of what happened. The One Big Beautiful Bill Act, also known as H.R. 1, is a reconciliation bill, which means it was passed through a special process that only requires a simple majority in the Senate rather than the usual 60 votes. The American Immigration Council, which is one of the most respected nonpartisan immigration research organizations in this country, published a detailed analysis showing that this law provides $170.7 billion in additional funding for immigration and border enforcement. Let me say that number again, $170 billion. To put that in perspective, the entire Federal Bureau of Prisons budget for fiscal year 2025 was $8.66 billion. This single law provides roughly 20 times that amount for immigration enforcement alone. The money is allocated through fiscal year 2029, and it covers border wall construction, detention facility expansion, hiring of new Border Patrol and ICE officers, deportation operations, state grants for immigration enforcement, and military support at the border. The Brennan Center for Justice described it as creating a, quote, deportation industrial complex, unquote. Now, that is the enforcement side. But the part that is affecting everyday immigrants right now, the part that is landing in your mailbox and your bank account and your healthcare coverage this very month, is the fee increases, the benefit cuts, and the new taxes. Let me talk about the fees first, because this is something that every single person going through the immigration system needs to understand. The One Big Beautiful Bill dramatically increased the cost of nearly every immigration application. If you are applying for a family-based green card inside the United States, the total USCIS fee is now $3 That is confirmed directly by USCIS on their official page. If you are applying from outside the country, the fee is $1,240. For asylum seekers, there is now a mandatory $100 application fee for the first time in history. And on top of that, there is an additional $100 fee for every single year the application remains pending, and there is no fee waiver available for either of those charges. Think about what that means. The immigration court backlog right now stretches years. An asylum seeker who waits 5 years for a decision, which is not unusual, would pay at least $500 just in pending fees, plus the initial filing fee plus work permit fees. Speaking of work permits, the initial employment authorization fee for asylum applicants, parolees, and TPS holders is now $550, up from $0 for asylum-based applicants and $470 for others. Renewal work permits cost $275, and the law limits their validity to just 1 year, meaning you have to renew and pay again every 12 months. The temporary protected status registration fee jumped from $50 to $500 with no fee waiver. The fee to appeal an immigration judge's decision went from $110 to $900. A motion to reopen a case went from $110 or $145 to $900. And for anyone ordered removed in absentia, meaning the judge ordered your deportation because you missed a court hearing, there is now a $5,000 fee on top of everything else. The Catholic Legal Immigration Network, known as Clinic, published a detailed breakdown of all of these fees and called the system pay-to-play, saying it effectively puts legal pathways out of reach for thousands of people. But there is another new fee that affects virtually everyone coming to the United States on any type of non-immigrant visa. It is called the Visa Integrity Fee. Starting October 1, 2025, every person issued a non-immigrant visa, whether it is a student visa, a tourist visa, a work visa, any category, must pay a mandatory $250 visa integrity fee. CNBC reported on this extensively. The fee is technically refundable, but only if after your visa expires, you can prove you complied with every single condition of your visa and did not attempt to extend your stay. KPMG confirmed the details in their Global Mobility Flash Alert, and there is also a new 24 I-94 application fee. These fees add up quickly, especially for families and for people from countries where these amounts represent months of income. Now, USCIS also announced that effective January 1, 2026, many of these HR1 fees received an additional inflation adjustment on top of the base amounts. And then effective March 1, 2026, premium processing fees increased again. So the costs are not just high, they are climbing. I strongly encourage every viewer to check the USCIS website directly, specifically the alert section for the most current fee schedule, because the amounts I am sharing today could be adjusted upward again. Now, let me move to the part of this law that is already devastating immigrant families, and it is the changes to public benefits. Before this law, immigrants with certain legal statuses like refugees, asylees, TPS holders, trafficking survivors, and VAWA self-petitioners had access to programs like Medicaid, the children's health insurance program known as CHIP, SNAP food assistance, and in some cases Medicare and Affordable Care Act premium tax credits. The One Big Beautiful Bill stripped most of those categories. The National Immigration Law Center, known as NILC, published a comprehensive analysis confirming that under this law, only 3 categories of non-citizens remain eligible for Medicaid, CHIP, SNAP, Medicare, and ACA premium tax credits. Those 3 categories are lawful permanent residents, meaning green card holders, certain Cuban and Haitian nationals classified as entrants under existing law, and people from Palau, Macronia, and the Marshall Islands under the Compact of Free Association. Everyone else, including refugees, asylees, TPS holders, trafficking survivors with T visas, and domestic violence survivors with VAWA protections, has been or will be cut off. The timeline matters because different programs are being cut at different times. SNAP eligibility changes took effect immediately when the law was signed in July 2025. The USDA Food and Nutrition Service has already issued implementation guidance. If you had SNAP benefits and you are not a green card holder or in one of those other 2 narrow categories, your benefits may have already been terminated or you may receive a notice soon. Medicaid and CHIP eligibility changes take effect on October 1, 2026, which is less than 6 months from now. NILC confirmed that starting that date, refugees, asylees, TPS holders, and many other lawfully present immigrants will lose their Medicaid coverage. Medicare changes took effect immediately when the law was signed, but people already enrolled as of July 4, 2025, have an 18-month grace period, meaning their coverage can continue until approximately January 2027. NPR published a heartbreaking story in April 2026 about a 67-year-old woman named Rosa Maria Carranza, who has TPS status and paid into Medicare for years through her payroll taxes. But under this law, her coverage will end because TPS holders are no longer eligible. The NPR report noted that approximately 100,000 lawfully present immigrants could be removed from Medicare. And then there are the tax changes. The law created a 1% excise tax on remittance transfers, meaning money sent from the United States to a recipient in a foreign country. This took effect on January 1, 2026. The IRS confirmed this on their website and has issued proposed regulations. If you send money home to family through any remittance transfer provider, 1% of the amount is now taxed. The tax applies unless the transfer is funded by a United States citizen using their own bank account. That means if you are a green card holder, a visa holder, or anyone who is not a citizen, you are likely paying this tax on every dollar you send abroad. 1% may not sound like a lot, but when you are sending $500 or $1,000 every month, it adds up over a year. And for millions of immigrants who support extended families overseas, this is a direct new cost that did not exist before. The original House proposal was actually 5%. It was negotiated down to 1% in the Senate version. But as RSM, one of the largest audit and tax consulting firms in the country, pointed out in their tax alert, this is a brand new category of excise tax that has never existed before in American tax law, and it specifically targets non-citizens. The law also restricts who can claim several important tax benefits. The $6,000 enhanced senior deduction that I have talked about on this channel, the one for people 65 and older, is only available to taxpayers with a Social Security number that is valid for work. If you file taxes using an individual taxpayer identification number known as an ITIN, you cannot claim it. The same restriction applies to the new deductions for tip income and overtime income, the American Opportunity and Lifetime Learning Education, tax credits, and the child tax credit. NILC estimates that approximately 2.6 million children in the United States will lose access to the child tax credit because no parent on their tax return has a qualifying Social Security number, even though those families are paying taxes. Now, I need to talk about what is happening with the 75-country immigrant visa pause because it is directly connected to the same policy direction. On January 14, 2026, the State Department announced an indefinite pause on immigrant visa issuance for nationals of 75 countries, citing public charge concerns. This is separate from Presidential Proclamation 10998, the 39-country travel ban that took effect January 1, 2026, based on national security grounds. Both are active simultaneously. The 75-country list includes nations across Africa, Asia, the Caribbean, Eastern Europe, and Latin America, from Afghanistan and Albania, all the way to Uruguay, Uzbekistan, and Yemen. The State Department's own website confirms that interviews are still being scheduled and conducted at embassies and consulates, but the final visa issuance is frozen. The Clinic versus Rubio lawsuit filed February 2, 2026 in the Southern District of New York is the major legal challenge. The case argues the pause is an unlawful nationality-based ban. As of date, the case remains active, but no broad injunction has been issued. On top of all this, the Visa Bond program has expanded to 50 countries as of April 2, 2026. Reuters reported that 12 additional countries were added in March, and now nationals of those 50 countries applying for B1 or B2 visitor visas may be required to post a bond of up to $15,000. The State Department says this is to combat overstay rates, but for many applicants, it creates an enormous financial barrier. There is also the expanded social media screening that took effect March 30th, 2026. The State Department confirmed that online presence reviews now apply to additional non-immigrant visa categories, including K-1 fiancé visas, R-1 religious worker visas, T visas for trafficking victims, and U visas for crime victims. Boundless Immigration News Service reported on this expansion in detail, and I have to mention temporary protected status because the Supreme Court is about to hear oral arguments on April 29, 2026, in cases involving TPS for Haiti and Syria. SCOTUS blog reported that this case could affect the future of TPS for all 17 currently designated countries, potentially impacting 1.3 million people. The ACLU confirmed the scope of the case in a recent press release. If you have TPS, this is a moment to pay very close attention and make sure you have legal counsel. The DHS Biometric Entry and Exit Program also expanded through a final rule effective December 26, 2025. CBP is now authorized to collect facial biometrics from non-citizens at airports, land ports, seaports, and other authorized points of entry and departure. The New York Times covered the quiet expansion of this program across U.S. airports and raised privacy concerns. The Federal Register published the full rule in October 2025. So, who is affected right now? Honestly, the answer is almost everyone in the immigration system. If you are applying for any immigration benefit, your fees have gone up significantly. If you are a refugee, Asylee, TPS holder, or parole, your access to Medicaid, SNAP, and other benefits is being cut or will be cut within months. If you send money to family abroad, you are now paying a 1% remittance tax. If you file taxes with an ITIN, you have lost access to several important deductions and credits. If you are from one of the 75 countries, your immigrant visa processing is frozen indefinitely. If you are applying for a visitor visa from one of 50 countries, you may need to post a $15,000 bond. If you have TPS, the Supreme Court is about to decide the future of the program. And if you enter the country on any non-immigrant visa, you are paying a new $250 visa integrity fee. Here is what I need you to do right now. First, check your immigration status and understand exactly which provisions of this law apply to you. The USCIS website has a dedicated page for HR1 fee updates. The NILC has published some of the most detailed analyses available. Second, if you receive Medicaid, CHIP, or SNAP benefits and you are not a green card holder, contact your state benefits office immediately to understand your current eligibility because changes are either already in effect or coming on October 1, 2026. Third, if you send money abroad, check with your remittance provider about the 1% excise tax and factor that into your budget. Fourth, if you are filing taxes, make sure your tax preparer understands the new ITIN restrictions on the senior deduction, the tip and overtime deductions, and the child tax credit. Fifth, if you have a pending immigration case of any kind, review the new fee schedule with your attorney because costs have changed and fee waivers have been eliminated for many categories. Sixth, if you have TPS, follow the Supreme Court case closely and have a plan in place depending on the outcome. Seventh, do not rely on social media or word of mouth for immigration information right now. Things are moving too fast and there is too much misinformation. Go directly to uscis.gov, travel.state.gov, and the IRS newsroom for official guidance. I want to say something directly to every person watching this who feels overwhelmed or frightened right now. I understand these changes are enormous and they are coming from every direction at once. But I also want you to know that there are lawsuits being fought. There are advocacy organizations working around the clock. There are immigration attorneys who specialize in exactly these situations. And most importantly, there is a community here on this channel that is staying informed and staying prepared. Knowledge is your best protection right now. The more you understand about what is happening, the better you can plan, the better you can protect your family, and the better positioned you are to take advantage of every legal option available to you. Before I go, let me give you my standard reminder. Everything I have shared in this video is based on official government sources, including USCIS, the Department of State, the IRS, the Department of Homeland Security, and Customs and Border Protection, as well as credible reporting from Reuters, NPR, CNBC, The New York Times, The Wall Street Journal, the Brennan Center for Justice, the American Immigration Council, the National Immigration Law Center, and SCOTUS blog. All verified as of date. Immigration law is complex, and it is changing rapidly. This video is educational content, not legal advice. Your situation is unique, and you should always consult a qualified immigration attorney before making decisions about your case. If this video helped you understand what is happening, please hit the like button right now. It costs you nothing, but it helps this video reach thousands of other families who need this information. Subscribe to Immigration News today and turn on notifications so you never miss a critical update. Share this video with someone you care about. Share it in your family group chat. Share it at your mosque or your church or your temple or your community center, because every person who understands their rights is a person who can protect themselves. Check the description below for a full summary, official resources, and a link to our free WhatsApp community where I share real-time updates as they happen. My name is James. This is Immigration News Today. Take care of yourself. Take care of your family. Know your rights.